Two-prong attack is this. Toyota Verblitz have gone on their own Verblitz, Brian. They've got Joseph Manu, the Kiwis fullback. He signed for 2024 and the 2025 season. But here is the little icing on the cake, right? This is what makes Joey Manu tick. Ian Foster, former All Blacks coach, part of a World Cup campaign back in the day. He's a champion coach, and he's on the line. Ian Foster, welcome to the Run Home with Joel and Fletch.
Afternoon, gentlemen. Big day.
Big day.
What about those conversations behind the scenes, hey?
That wouldn't have happened.
Was he going to do it? Oh, mate, I don't know, mate. What do you got up your sleeve? Joey Manu's about to sign. Joey, what do you got up your sleeve? I don't know. Ian Foster's about to sign. Done. Let's go. That you reckon?
Yeah, well, I think at the centre of that little triangle is Steve Hansen, who's obviously someone I've coached a long time with, and he's been in Toyota for 3 years, and I know he's always been a Joey fan, and so he's done the lion's share of the lifting here. And I remember having to talk to New Zealand rugby about trying to get Joey back at some point, but he's passionate about his Roosters team, and I think he's given great service to them. But he's after a new adventure, and we're delighted up in Japan now.
Hey, so Ian, just tell us a little bit about the competition there. What would it compare to? Is it? I wouldn't imagine it's as strong as the New Zealand sort of domestic competition. Is it like a Super Rugby sort of standard?
Yeah, look, it's to be fair. I mean, I'm starting in October, so I'm probably not perfectly qualified, but I know a lot of the guys up there talk a lot to the players. We've got a lot of New Zealanders up there, like Toyota have got Aaron Smith, Bowden Barrett playing there. They've got Peter Steph Toy, who is a South African, won the last 2 World Cups. So they've got some quality players spread right through the teams. Effectively, it's company rugby. It's each, the teams are basically part of a company setup. It's taken a long time, but they're very ambitious league. They're getting a lot of foreigners in, and but you can only have 3 on the park at any one time. But they had a pre-season competition against some of the New Zealand franchises in February, and won a couple of games and lost a couple. So it's not too far away from Super Rugby. That's all the reports we're getting.
Okay, so when you say 3, you can have 3 imports at any time on the field?
Yep, that's right. Well, 3 people that are non-eligible to play for Japan. So,
what about in the squad, Ian? How many can you have in the squad? Could you have 10 in the squad and only use 3 at a time, or?
Yeah, you can you can have a few, but I mean, obviously, it's the purpose of getting the foreign players is to try to add value somewhere, and it's probably not too good having them all sitting in a grandstand. So, and I think in Joey's case, it's his conversations, particularly with Steve, he's just after a new challenge and a bit of a new direction, and he's going to have to take his time a little bit as he learns it. But great place for him to learn, and he's got a great attitude towards that.
4 biggest names, Brian, in Japan's about to be Shohei Ohtani, Hideki Matsuyama, Ian Foster, Joey Manu.
Yes.
There you go.
And what's his name? The surfer. Igarashi.
Oh, yes.
He's the surfer. So
that's right.
Hey, all right. I'm going to ask you, can I ask you this, Ian? Where do you see Joey in Rugby Union? What position?
Yeah, good question. And being a smart man, I'm going to give the answer that I think's right, which is I don't know. And it's look, I've been through this with like Roger Tuivasa-Sheck the last few years in the All Blacks. You've got real quality athlete. It's a matter of trying to figure out, we'll have conversations with him through the preseason and figure out at the stage he's really a wing fullback centre would be the I mean, in rugby, I'd love to see him at centre down the track with the build and the way he loves to get his hands on the ball and runs at people. Sometimes 15 in rugby, one of the differences is that you really got to get involved in a lot more kicking and probably first receiver type plays than maybe what he's used to. So we're just going to take a step at a time. But reality is he's a great athlete, and you see what he does for the Roosters, and we're looking forward to trying to tap into that and utilising where fit, but certainly in that outside backs at this stage.
Chatting with former All Blacks coach Ian Foster, and what an honour to coach the All Blacks, who not just New Zealand, this smallly populated country, but he's the reverence
go
around.
Easy. Go easy. Go easy.
But that's just adding to the rap. But the gravitas and the reverence towards that team and that jumper, and for you to be for a number of years coaching that side, Ian, it's a personal huge feat, isn't it?
Yeah, it's from a Kiwi perspective, it's the best job you could have, and I've been sort of 12 years with the All Blacks, 8 years as an assistant through Steve Hansen's era, and 4 years as a head coach. Loved it. I'm still getting over a 1 point loss in last year's World Cup, which hurt a little bit, but reality is I love the team. I love what it does. But you got to move on, and I'm looking forward to this challenge. One of the guys that I coached with last year in the All Blacks is now coaching the Wallabies. So we all take different paths, don't we? But you've certainly got a winner, Joe Schmidt, over there from the Wallabies side. I tell you that.
Oh, really? Okay. What do we like about him?
He's very technical. Yep. He's got a great understanding of the game, and he'll be relatively non-compromising on what he wants out of the players. Beautiful. So I think you'll enjoy him, but we'll wait and see.
Well, you owe us one because Madge Maguire did win the Pacific Championship for you guys.
Yeah,
so
that's very cool.
Toyota Verblitz, tell us about their history. Is this team you're taking on, are they decorated with success? Are they a team who's desperate to chase and find success for the first time? What's their story?
Yeah, they're desperate to chase. They've taken a while to really get on the rugby train up in Japan. They've had a team for a while, but perhaps haven't taken it seriously. And I think that Steve Hansen's gone in there, and some of the Japanese people in his company have got a real passion now to build a program from the base up. And I think it's the last 2 or 3 years they've done that, and now there's a feeling that they've got a really good base and actually going to launch into something. So, they've got a good, everyone will focus on the foreigners who come in, but the real success in the Japan competition is not so much the 3 foreigners on the field, it's the 12 Japanese on the field. And so you've got to be able to build the base from your Japanese players, and we've got an exciting young group that really wants to push hard and achieve something, and that's why I think it's going to be great for someone like Joey. He's going to be surrounded by people that really want to push forward and achieve something, and if he can contribute to that, then it'll be great for him.
Maybe a little link story between Joey Manu and yourself, and I played in France for a little limited time, Ian, and the coach at the time was a young aspiring coach called Trent Robinson, and he spoke fluent French. So in that scenario, we'd be over there and he'd speak to the Frenchies and he'd rattle off what he wanted to tell them in French. And then in about a couple of minutes, he'd turn to the Aussies and say, righto, boys, we want you to do this, this and this. Language barrier. Is that, you mentioned, obviously the success will come largely from what you can get out of the local Japanese players. What's the language barrier? Do they all speak English? Do you need to sort of come to the party with the Japanese, or where's that at?
Yeah, no, there's a bit of both. They do speak a little bit of English, and there's obviously translators around, but, high on the list for me is going to be to learn some Japanese. And I've been over there a few times, but I can't say I'm fluent, but I'm going to go and work hard. I think as a coach, you have to. I mean, coaching's so much more about telling, isn't it? It's about relationships and connecting with players. So there's no doubt we're going to have to do that. But the Japanese scene is very well set up for the foreigners coming in. They have, Toyota's got some great sort of language classes that they'll take us through, and by the use of translators, and like we've got Aaron Smith, who was the All Black halfback last year for a long time, and he's over there and already's picked up his language. So I had a couple of years in Italy and eventually learned how to speak Italian, so I'm pretty sure I can give it a crack. I reckon,
don't use the Italian. Don't use the Italian for the Japanese. That might confuse them.
I reckon I can almost speak Australian too, but that's one of the hardest things to pick up.
Ian, do you know much about the Japanese culture and stuff? Because we hear about how it's all quite respectful. You can't really speak out of turn. Which is totally opposite to. I've never played rugby union, but rugby league, because they wear rat bags. Are you familiar with the sort of the culture the Japanese have?
Yeah, very much so. It is. I think because you're playing for you're playing for a sports team, but you're also representing a company. And you look at a company like Toyota. Like Toyota's, I think, one of the three biggest companies in Japan, which is saying something. And so your behaviour and how you act is actually not. It's not just about being part of a team. It's about being part of something much, much bigger. And so it's critical over there, and about how you behave and how you show respect. That's on and off the park. You'll find crowds. I think Toyota played Sun Goliath, which is a Suntory company recently, and they had the biggest crowd in their history, which is about 40-odd thousand. But the crowd are quiet. They just watch. They respect. They're quiet for the kickers. It is a different scene, but it's in some ways there's some pretty good morals that maybe Aussies and definitely Kiwis could learn a little bit more of when it comes to sport.
Absolutely.
Well, Ian, I shared the story on our show only last week about, and I'm desperate to go to Japan. There's everything to like about the people, the place. Never been, desperate to go. But one thing I was telling Brian was, so I'm told anyway, is that they don't have janitors in the schools. It's on the kids to clean up everything. And so how they're brought up compared to our kids, it's...
Well, they did at the World Cup. Remember we saw that in the World Cup, the Soccer World Cup? How all the fans stopped and were cleaning up afterwards?
I know. So what a privilege to go and live there.
Yeah, we had a World Cup there, and rugby had a World Cup there in 2019, and it was a great experience. But I'd have to say we're shooting up late May. My wife and I are going to go and find a place, get a spare room. So you're welcome to come and stay in it. Maybe you could do your show there and interview Joey and do a bit of progress. And maybe there's a good market for you guys to expand into the Japanese.
Oh, they'd love that.
Area.
I reckon the Japanese would warm to us.
They would warm to us.
We like the Japanese food.
Yep.
We like vending machines.
Yes.
They're everywhere. Hey, and what is the season? When does it start? When does it finish? And how many games?
Look, it starts. Pre-season starts October with camps. They have kind of like a pre-season competition that goes for 4 or 5 weeks, and then they into their main competition, which is Japan Rugby League 1, and effectively that goes from, I think it's late November, something like that, through to end of May. And so one thing that the old Southern Hemisphere boys struggle with a little bit, you go from winter to winter. So at the end of the season, you come back and it's June, July, August, September, which is not bad if you live in Australia, but ain't that pretty if you live in New Zealand. So, but, it's a reasonably long season. I think they're about 17, 18 games and then playoffs. So, but good breaks in between. And the good thing for someone like Joey is that there's not an expectation you come in and play every week. The squads are quite big, and we'll be able to monitor him, particularly when he's come straight from an NRL season. And in his case, I'm hoping they go all the way. And so he's going to have to come back in and need some managing through that early part, which we're pretty conscious of.
Now, can I ask you this? I'm being the devil's advocate here. What if Joey just brains it playing in the Japan? Is he eligible to play for the All Blacks if he's selected?
Yeah, under the current criteria, no. But all it would take him to do is to maybe have a couple of years in Japan, nail the rugby, and then agree to sign to go back to play for a New Zealand franchise, and then that would make him eligible for the All Blacks. So it wouldn't be hard for him to cross that bridge, but he'd have to leave from Japan and go and play in New Zealand.
And I'm just sort of interested in the way the competition. What I know you mentioned the standard might be just below Super Rugby, but do they play a sort of defensive orientated game, or is it more open and attacking?
Yeah, it's open and attacking, no doubt about it. It's look, if you look at internationally, Japan's gone from being a team that's been smacked around a bit till, in 2019 they made the top 8, they made the quarterfinals of the World Cup.
Yeah. They beat South Africa, didn't they?
They beat South Africa in 2015. They beat Ireland and I think Scotland in 2019. And so they've got the ability, they're growing in competency internationally. And so they're very ambitious as a country in their rugby. And so, they haven't perhaps got the power of the in terms of the set piece in rugby that some other teams have got. But gee, they're not far away, and you've seen a lot more. You've seen a real growth in the physical nature of their rugby. So, but they love to attack. They're quick. They're grown in skill, and actually, to be fair, the Kiwi boys that go out there and play at the end of their careers, they kind of love it because it's fast and it's open and it's skillful, and it's there's a little bit more space to play in.
Loves to attack, skillful, grown,
Joey.
All those sorts of things.
Sounds right, doesn't it?
Well, I think you've explained Mychala Foster.
Oh, come on.
Is that fair or not? So you've kept that quiet.
Yeah.
Your daughter's a superstar. There with the Ferns.
Yeah, but
yes.
Yeah, I've just look. She's hogged the media over here. It's been quite embarrassing for me. So, no, we're very proud of our daughter, and she's going good. But they've just qualified for the Olympics. So,
yes.
Oh yeah.
So we've got to plan a trip up there, and I guess alongside the Matildas, hopefully the Southern Hemisphere does well in the Olympics.
I've got a question about Joey. Just sorry to move on a bit. So, I mean, he's never played professional rugby union. Was there reservations by like Toyota, or was it just left up to you, Ian? Or how does that work? Because I'd imagine you want to get an import. You don't want to waste your import sort of player. Did it have to take much sort of convincing to sign Joey?
No, I don't think so. And I think look, to me, you'd have to it's really. I mean, Steve Hansen's the one who sort of really initiated that part of it, and he's been him and I looked at Joey Manu for a while, but Steve, since he's been in Taita the last couple of years, I think has been really keen, and he's been really impressed with Joey's attitude and how he wants to learn, and particularly his athleticism. You look at his age, so he's got plenty of time to actually go back and learn, but it takes a bit of courage to change when you're a star in a sport and to change. But and sometimes the courage to do it speaks volumes for how that player's going to behave when he actually gets his chance. So we're banking on the athleticism and on the man himself, and I think you guys know very well that he's been a player, and when we look at it, we look at his role at 15 in league, and we kind of think, well, heck, we can play around with that pretty easily. We think.
What about, this is a one-off topic, but his uncle John, who you may quite know well, John Schuster, who was an inside centre for the All Blacks, and there's a lot of talk locally here in Australia, Ian, about, and I don't know how much you know about Josh Schuster, but I'm kind of starting to think that
he's his nephew. He's John's nephew.
That's right, nephew.
So
yes,
they're cousins.
No, nephew.
No, it's Joey cousin.
No, I'm not talking about Joe Manu. I'm talking about John Schuster.
Sorry,
no.
Johnny Schuster.
Sorry. But where I'm going to with this is that obviously the games are very different, aren't they, Ian? Where the 10-metre rule and the non-stop in the rugby league, and this skill that this kid has, Josh Schuster. I've sort of floated the idea with Fletch and Matty Johns during the week that I wouldn't rule him out with the lineage that he has with his Uncle John, that he couldn't become a star in rugby, which I feel as though aerobically, which is probably not his greatest strength, may be better suited to the rugby union with all his skills he's got and his size and power.
Like an inside centre or something?
Yes. Do you see any sort of opportunity there for a young bloke like Josh Schuster who's got so much talent?
Oh, look, there's no doubt. And, I think what's interesting now, we've got a world where the younger generation is sort of forever trying to challenge themselves on the horizons they set for each other. So some of these top athletes now, it's kind of not enough for them just to do it in one sport. They all want to push. And, look at the likes of Sonny Bill was a classic case of that. So it's not so much. So, yes, the skill sets, and particularly being a back helps in that transition from league to rugby. She ain't an easy thing going from league, I think, if you're a forward, because of the set piece role. And I think probably the most successful transition has been Brad Thorne in that time. But I think for backs, it is becoming pretty transferable, and rugby's changing because we've got a lot of league coaches in rugby now, so the defence systems are generally more league based, and And so that means that part of the game is a little bit more easier for the players to adapt to. So it's just a matter of, getting them to used to, when they get tackled, the game doesn't stop.
Hey, we know I've taken you a long time, Ian, but I want to squeeze one last question in. Like
ramen or sushi?
Joey Manu.
Ramen.
Ramen. Knew I liked
Really?
you, Fozzie. I knew I loved you.
Ramen.
Yeah,
Ramen.
all day. Ramen all day, every day.
Okay. So we've got Joey Manu, or you've got Joey Manu. Swali'i, who by all reports is the greatest kid on the planet, doesn't drink. He's going there as well. In your opinion, is there another player out there, maybe who hasn't been widely mentioned, who you can look at and go, geez, they would go well at rugby?
No. Well, who knows? Look, I get into trouble talking about that. And look, I'm really conscious that, it's been the whole Swali type thing over in Australia has been interesting. And I'm not sure. I think when you look at that one, I'm not sure that the motives were good on both sides. Like he's a great kid. I just hope it works out for him because he's going to be under the spotlight with. But I've got no doubt. I've been through it with Benji Marshall when he came over here. Watched him transition through the Blues. I've seen Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, who I couldn't speak more highly of a person than Roger, and you just know how hard it is to change, and it ain't easy, and so and because it's not just about the game, it's about all the factors off the park, and in some ways I really like what Joey's done because it's just taken him out of the limelight a little bit. Once he finishes this year, he'll go to Japan, and the limelight will be on him over there, but he'll be out of the Australian market, out of the New Zealand market, and just give him a chance to breathe and learn at the pace that he can learn at, and then hopefully we can deliver a quality player that may play on the big stage one day.
Well, Ian Foster, you've certainly delivered a quality chat, hasn't he, Brian?
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
You're a keeper, and we are officially adopting the Toyota Verblitz are our team, aren't they, Brian?
Verbies, we call them.
Yep.
The Verbies.
We'll take it, to be on such a high-profile station like yourself.
Thank you very much, Fozzie.
Yep.
Well done. The Verblitz.
Yeah, the privilege is all yours, Fozzie.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, no, we really appreciate it. We can't wait to keep in touch and get a regular update over there in Japan. And you know what? We might do a bloody show over there, won't we, Brian?
Yeah, we might just come crashing. What do they call those places? What's the place of it? Like the Japanese place?
They're called hotels.
No. There's just ones. It's not like an Airbnb. It's when you have a super host.
Yeah.
And you look after it.
Ian Foster.
You're right.
We'll let you go,
Been a
mate.
pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining the Run Home with Joel and Fletch.
Okay, thanks, man.